Chaos, 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 and more chaos. We warned you. The stake starts now. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to The Stakes. I'm Tara Setmayer. This is Michelle Kinney. We're the co-founders of the Seneca Project, and this is The Stakes. I think we just have to start with a collective breathe in,
cleansing breath.
Out. Yes, because what the actual is happening? It feels like it was a month and a half ago that the RFK Jr. confirmation hearings were happening, and that was just yesterday. So, I mean, there has been so much going on. I don't even know where to start, but I want to say thank you to everyone who's joining us and let you guys know we have a great show for you. We have a special guest tonight before we get into all of it. For those who are paying attention to some of the special elections that are happening, there is a special election happening in upstate New York, in NY-21, which is where Michelle's favorite congresswoman used to represent, Elise Stefanik. And she is vacating that position to become the UN ambassador. And we have Blake Gendebien, who's going to be with us, and he's going to talk about why he thinks he's the best person for that job. And we're going to introduce you guys to him. We think he's fantastic. So stay tuned for him. We're going to bring him on in a couple minutes to chat and talk a little bit about that and get his thoughts on things. But first, let me say I am just really heartbroken over what happened here in the DC area last night. Michelle and I were on a chat talking, and then all of a sudden I was like, oh my God, what's happening? And Michelle was on her way to see RFK Jr.
Yeah, I was on my way home, actually.
That's right, you were on your way home.
From Lincoln Center.
Yep. And I was like, oh my God. And we got the horrible news about the plane collision that killed everyone on board, which is just
unimaginable.
Unimaginable. As someone who has flown out of National Airport countless times, I lived in the DC area for 30 years, know it well. And it was just, it's unimaginable. It's everybody's worst nightmare. And our hearts go out to the families and everyone. It's terrible. And to make it even more terrible, we have a president of the United States who literally blamed DEI for the crash. I cannot even get into how infuriating that is. We will later in the show. We've got some things to say about that, as I'm sure you can imagine. And of course, today also Kash Patel and Tulsi Gabbard, two more of some of the most dangerous people that should never be anywhere near the levers of power, never mind like in power, in some of the most important national security jobs for the protection of this country. And for people who oversee, like Kash Patel as the FBI director, having that type of power at the FBI,
terrifying.
It's insanity. But a lot of people didn't see their confirmation hearings today because it was overshadowed by the plane tragedy, understandably. But the timing couldn't be worse. The political cynic in me is like, oh my God, now no one's going to see the crazy.
Right. Which, well, this is what happens, right? I mean, it's always something. And, you know, the cable news networks, the legacy media, they're going to pick the things that they think are going to get the most amount of hits so they can, you know, funnel in money with their advertisers and everything else. So, you know, that's what they're going to do, unfortunately.
And on a normal time, that would be completely fine, right? Like they should be covering it wall to wall. I mean, it's a horrible tragedy. We haven't seen a loss of life like this since 2001. I mean, it's terrible. There's a lot of things to discuss, and it's terrible. You have the figure skating aspect of this with the team. It's just like a whole thing. But at the same time, like it's really important for the American people to see what's happening with these confirmations, because then the senators don't feel the pressure. Because we saw this week as well, the pressure after Trump decided to just, we're going to freeze all federal funding, all $3 trillion of it. What? And then people flipped out and they called their senators and congressmen. And guess what? They had to back off it because people were paying attention and saw it impacted them. So we're going to get into all of that. There's so much to talk about. But we want to make sure that we give enough sufficient time to our good friend, Blake Gendebien, and we're going to bring him in first. So welcome to Blake.
Hello.
From upstate
Tara.
New York.
Hi, Michelle. Thank you guys for having me on today.
Hi, Blake. Thank you so much for being here.
It's not like there's anything to talk about.
I know.
Jesus.
Where do we start?
Oh my gosh. Well, I think where we start first is to give folks an opportunity to find out who you are, where you came from, why we think you're fabulous and support you, but just give a little background about who you are and why you decided to take the plunge and run for Congress up there in New York's 21st.
Well, thank you guys so much again. Our hearts go out to all of the people in the terrible tragedy at Reagan. It's so sad. Well, I definitely started to enter this race in New York 21 because I feel like it's a great opportunity to have a pragmatic reflection of the North Country. And of course, for those of you that don't know what the North Country is, it's basically the Adirondack Park and a circumference around it. It's really big. It's 15 counties. And I am born and raised here. Grew up on a 50-cow dairy farm. We only milked 35 cows in the summertime because it was so hard to get all the field work done. And I am in love with the North Country and all that it has to offer. I love the small school system that I went to and all of the small school systems throughout. I love the animals that I grew up with. And I love the North Country, the Adirondack Park, the St. Lawrence Seaway, Lake Champlain, Lake George, Mohawk Valley. It's just unbelievable. And I want to be a true populist representative. I want to listen to the people of the North Country, which we haven't had in a long time. And I want to bring their needs to DC. We need a little more North Country in DC, a little less DC in the North Country. And I can do that. It's what I love. It's where I'm from.
Michelle, these are your folks.
I know, these are my folks. I mean, this is why Blake is here. I mean, we wanted him here anyways, but obviously I have a personal vested interest in the area because that is where I grew up. My family lives there. My parents grew up there. My grandfather, I mean, my family's lived there for like 150 years or more. So it is just like what Blake said, a beautiful place to live, a great place to grow up. But it often gets left behind in terms of just what things are available and resources that are available to the district. And as Blake will tell you, anyone will, is that Elise Stefanik, representing the district for however many years that's been now, she is a DC animal and doesn't spend very much time in the district. I don't think really can connect with people there in the same way that you can, Blake, because I don't think she really cares all that much. And she's not even really from the district anyways. But I mean, you know, and I know we've talked a little bit just before you came on about what's going on with the Trump administration and how his immigration policies are going to affect the farming community in Northern New York. And I was wondering if you could just talk a little bit about that as a farmer yourself.
Yeah, of course. We are dairy farmers, and the America's farmers, not just dairy, fruit, vegetables, row crop, everything hinges on a secure workforce. And we can literally feed the world. We can do better than we're doing if we get the support that we need. We can feed the world. America's farmers are absolutely the best on this planet. But like I said before, we need a secure workforce. All of us. This is a national issue, not just a North Country issue. So this is one of those North Country issues. We can be the epicenter. I'm happy to do that. And I'm happy to carry that on my shoulders and explain that a secure workforce is exactly what we all need. Not just Blake Gendebien, not just my neighbors, but dairy farmers in California, vegetable farmers in California, citrus growers in Florida. We rely on quality people, quality labor, and immigration plays a big part in that. And if you want to have, I promise you, if you want to have an honest conversation and set real decent policy, caring policy for people, you have to have a farmer in the room. You cannot do it without a farmer in the room. And that is one of the main reasons why I need to go to DC and be part of these discussions. There just aren't enough real people with calluses on their hands, with mud on their boots in their closets. Maybe they had mud on their boots 25 years ago. You need mud on the boots that are in your closet to really understand the issues. And that's what I will bring to DC. Thanks for that question, because I feel very passionate about this issue.
Well, of course, because that's your experience. You literally have that mud on your boots. You do have the calluses on your hands. And what makes people good legislators are the people who've actually taken part and invested their lives in something like that, and they bring that experience, not the career politicians who go because they like wearing their members pin and giving speeches on the floor and pontificating. So I think that's the difference. And what sets you apart as a candidate. For a lot of Democrats, candidate quality is really important, especially in this moment now, where you aren't the establishment Republican. That's me. That's the 27 years of Republican Party. It's hard to shed it, the establishment Democrat that people typically see. And the immigration issue, for you to have a pragmatic approach to that, to be like, you can try to demonize and otherize the brown people who come here, then you don't want them for, because you're afraid of whatever, demonizing them, which is a whole nother aspect of it. You're like, hold on a second. In practical terms, we need a labor force. Why aren't we talking about reforming the guest worker programs or the HB2s, right? I think those are the agriculture visas. It's been a while since I've worked on the
H2A is a 6 month.
Right. So it's like, why aren't we having those substantive policy conversations? Because that's actually what will help improve our immigration system, particularly for agriculture.
Exactly. We need to drive to this conversation. Immigration is being used too much as a tool to kind of split us apart.
Right, a wedge.
To argue. So we have to remain unprovoked. We have to be like a workhorse. You have to have your blinders on. You have to get rid of the noise. Focus on that field, focus on your job, plow one pass at a time. Don't try to take chunks that are this wide. Take chunks at manageable bites and just work away at the project. And you have to have people there that have lived experience like myself. Also, you have to have people there that know the Spanish language. You have also, I want to explain to you guys, my wife is a Cuban immigrant. We have that very special connection.
Wow.
To the whole issue. She came in 1972 with her family. Her father was a very hardworking man in New York City. He was the superintendent of an apartment building and in Washington Heights. And then he also worked downtown at night as a janitor. So when we met and I asked her if she would go home to the farm with me, she had no problem understanding the hours and the amount of work and how much it was going to take. And so we totally feel like not only do we understand, because we have a farm and we rely heavily on a secure workforce, but we are also on a border county. St. Lawrence County is right on the border. We're maybe a mile away from the St. Lawrence River.
Yeah.
So this issue, like I said before, is really near and dear to us. And this is not a vanity project for me. There is no deep, dark hole in my soul that I need to fill to make myself free. This is something that I want to do and be a part of for the North Country. And if what I do for the North Country translates into better policy for America's farmers, America's people, great. That's what it's all about.
What was the moment where you said, F this, I gotta run? Because there's usually a moment for everyone where they're like, that's it. What was it for you?
Yeah, that moment for me probably came, oh my goodness. It was years ago. I do not like disingenuous behavior. And when I see ladder climbing, it's a red flag. It means to me, or disingenuous performance on stage. That drives me nuts. And I said, I felt like that's what we were getting from our representative, and that needed to change. Why couldn't I do it 4 years ago? It's because my kids were still at home.
Mm.
Carmen and I had to wait until the boys were out. Noah, our youngest, is a senior in high school, and I was coaching him in basketball. I love high school sports.
Yeah.
And it was just critical that I finish coaching him and his friends. Nothing makes me feel better than being in a gymnasium with 10 seconds left and making the decision for the game-winning shot.
Yeah.
And we were very good at that for many years. So the boys had to get through. Noah is a senior. He's coming into the last half of his senior year. And that Elise was nominated in November, right, to be ambassador to the UN.
Mm.
And I said to Carmen, and I kind of looked at each other. We've been married for 22 years now, so a look is all it takes.
Yeah.
And she pretty much said, yeah, now's the time.
Now's the time.
And I asked Noah, and Noah said, yeah, Dad, it's okay. I know you're going to miss maybe a couple track meets this spring, but it's okay. And the other boys, of course, said, yep, no problem. And we were off to the races. Absolutely. We received some wonderful advice early from great friends, and it just took off from there.
I love that. As a former high school athlete, I played volleyball and ran track. I totally get that. It's okay if you miss a couple track meets. That's why there's a whole bunch of them. You can, as long as you make the championships or like, you know, the sectionals, then you'll be good. But
yeah, isn't track the coolest?
I miss it all the time. It's been 30, plus years since I was a high school athlete, and it was some of the most invigorating and rewarding experiences. I had volleyball for my team sport, and then track it's a team sport, but you have individual, goals and things that you can push. As I was a high jumper, and I did a lot of. I was a pentathlete. I did. I was a secret weapon. I'm only 5'6", but I had like a 35-inch vertical jump. So in both volleyball and track, I was a secret weapon. Yeah. I miss those days.
I'm like, as 5 feet tall, that's not even anything that was in my, like, okay, high jump. Nope. It's like over my head already.
I could have turned you into a basketball player. I know it.
Right.
Yeah, she would have been a hell of a point guard, man. If Muggsy Bogues
get the elbow in the face.
Lower center of gravity.
It happened. Yeah. Well, it's funny that we're talking about this, because I think that we're in this moment in American politics, especially, obviously, things feel dark and scary. But I think people are really starved for real people and real conversations and real plain language when we're not talking over people's heads. And I think a lot of times Democrats, I mean, even now we're watching it, they talk over people and not to people in any real way. And Tara and I talk about this even just with the two of us at the Seneca Project. I think people relate to us because we're real people who came from places like the North Country and Paramus, New Jersey. And, I'm the daughter of a firefighter, and Tara was raised by a single mom and a law enforcement family. And so, I think, people are looking for representatives like you, Blake, that they can relate to, hardworking people with calluses on their hands, like you said. That means something to people. And, and we can talk a little bit about this too. The North Country in NY-21 has gone very red, obviously, in the last few cycles. But the people up there are very practical. There are a lot of independents, and candidate quality is a big part of that, I think. And I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about what you're seeing on the Republican side as you go into the special election.
Well, my take on this is that I'm not here to educate anyone on moral behavior and how they need to change their lives. I love and care for my neighbors. I know what they need, and I am here for them, whether they're all the way to the left or all the way to the right. I am going to take care of them. And if you're marginalized, victimized, or hated on, I am going to be there for you, because Bullies are something that I have a real aversion to. I just can't stand it. So on the other side, we've got the candidates already giving each other nicknames on social media. They just can't seem to sort it out. On our side, things are very smooth, and we're unified, and that takes a lot of the energy that I need can be devoted to focusing on those just to the center right that have had to hold their nose and vote for somebody they really didn't want to because the person on the other side was just a little bit too far to the other side. So you will find that I'm very close to the middle, and it is very important to me that women have the right to choose, that affordable health care is available, and access to affordable health care is available, because the North Country is huge. You cannot have a 2.5-hour ride to your nearest facility. That's just unacceptable. I am here to make sure that rural broadband is accessible. You won't believe it. I have rural broadband to one property. For me, it's at our farm garage.
Wow.
For me to have high-speed internet, I have to shoot it with antennas to my house. I have to shoot it with antennas to my parents' house because the driveways are so long. That's unacceptable.
Yeah.
People need to have access to these things, and we need to have them because there is entrepreneurial spirit and resilience all through this district, especially in the Adirondack Park. Those of us that live in that park are absolutely amazing what we can do to make a living. And circling back to your question, these are bipartisan issues. Everybody worries about healthcare. Everybody worries about access to rural broadband. Everybody worries about how much food costs at the dinner table, how expensive your electricity bill is, how expensive your natural gas bill is, how expensive your fuel oil bill is. And if you want somebody who really gets it, you send a farmer to Congress. I get it. I am in the trenches with veterans, what they're going through. I'm in the trenches with seniors over 65 with what they're going through. My parents are 80 years old. They're incredible. Dad's my best friend. I'm in the trenches with all of my neighbors. Like you said, Michelle, we're yearning for somebody that is just like the rest of us.
Yeah.
And Tara, your parents, your mother, I'm sure she was absolutely amazing. And we want somebody that gets it and understands where we come from, not an outsider that parachutes in and sees an opportunity to win a special election. That's just not necessary.
And there's a whole lot of that up there, a whole lot of it. Elise grew up in Albany, really like outside the district. I think
and she we have these incredible public schools up here, incredible public school teachers that are just killing it every single day, right? And then she goes to a private school, and her father owned a camp in the Adirondacks, and now she's a resident of her district. That's just, it's disingenuous and it's frustrating. We just need to end it.
It is. And I'm a product of public school.
Me too.
I love public school, and I think we need to be spending more of our money and resources on that instead of, sending our money elsewhere.
It's here in New York 21, and we need to embrace what we've got.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's refreshing to have candidates like you out there. It's not easy to take that leap, especially now.
Very brave.
Yes,
very brave.
It's kudos to you for stepping up. We tell people here at the Seneca Project that everyone can do their part, and because people often ask us, our supporters and folks who watch us, and they're like, "What can we do? How do we fight back against this? The chaos, and it's exhausting. Like, we feel so despondent. What can we do?" And we always tell folks that everybody has a role to play. whether it's, you know, maybe you're not cut out to run for an office, you're a great organizer. Then you find those candidates and you help them get elected. Maybe you're a great writer. Start writing op-eds or start a blog or a Substack and spread the word. Or maybe you are that leader and you step up and you run for office, whether it's for your county commission, mayor, school board, or Congress. So we're really thrilled that we can support you and help spread the word to help try to get you elected, because we need more people like you out there who are honest, good Americans, just doing it for the right reasons, to try to straighten some things out up there in Congress, because boy, they need it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. You are so right. It feels like there's a lot coming at us, but we have to remain unprovoked. We have to remain focused. If you have a little ball, a glass ball of gumballs, don't try to eat the whole glass ball. You twist the thing and you take one manageable bite at a time. And before you know it, you have taken off a big chunk, but you just have to do it one manageable bite at a time. It seems daunting, but we've got this, especially if we work together, like you said.
100%. When is the election? Has it been set yet?
No, but we believe that nobody really knows, right? But we think Elise will be confirmed next week. And then the governor will start the clock. The chairs will announce their decision, and 90 days after that will be the election. And that's looking like end of April, early March. So very excited. We're condensing a 2-year campaign into 90 days. And it's awesome. We wouldn't have it any other way.
I mean, I think a certain presidential candidate understands what that's like. Condensing it into, you got to go all at one time. But this is a little
fast and furious.
Yes, fast and furious. So folks, if you guys can help Blake out, please do. You know, it's going to be a competitive race up there, more so than in the past. He's got a chance. So the more that we can do to help him, the better. Go ahead, Michelle.
No, I was just going to say, just to, you know, piggyback on what Blake was saying, just how massive the district is. So, you know, it's a lot of land that those people are spread out in, and it's difficult for a candidate to get from one county to the other county. I mean, it's hard to travel. It's a lot of travel in that district. So, and through the Adirondacks, you know, from Lake Placid to Fort Drum. I mean, it's a very diverse place, and it's beautiful, but it is really big. So, you know, I send you lots of luck to, you know, have to drive around in the North Country during the last parts of the winter with all the lake effect snow. But I know you can do it with 4-wheel drive. You'll be all right.
Yes, North Country natives, we can handle it.
Right.
Unlike the people here in the DC area that can't drive the shit in the snow.
1 inch of snow and like lose their
they loot
mind.
the supermarkets. If there's 2 inches of snow on the ground, that's it. It's get the bread and milk, and they loot the supermarkets. It's a disaster here. So you guys know what you're doing up there. Blake, thank you so much. And we will be here to support you any way we can. And you're welcome back anytime as things go on. And best of luck to you, my friend.
We love you guys. Thank you so much. And everybody that's watching, I want to thank you for your time too. You have many other things to do. I appreciate all of you. And please visit our website there, BlakeGendebien4Congress.com. Tara, Michelle, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Take care. What a delight.
What a good guy. I love him. And not just because he's a New York Giants fan. I wasn't going to start that because, you know, we're all feeling, Giants fans are feeling some kind of way with the Eagles and the stupid Super Bowl. But he's a great guy, and those are the types of people we need. It's so true. You know, he's
the real person,
a real guy,
real person, and that's who should be representing us in the People's House, is real people, and not, you know, at least one of the things that I have not liked about her the most is, to Blake's point, how disingenuous she is. And that she kind of, you know, puts her finger to the wind, see which way it's going, and that's just what she says, and that's who she's going to be. And who is Elise Stefanik? I have no idea. I don't think she knows. Idea who she is.
She doesn't know.
I've watched her debate when my friend Tedra Cobb ran and debated her. you know, she would answer these questions like, what's your favorite thing to do in the North Country? And she'd be like, my family loves to pick apples. They're beautiful. And it's just like, so I'm like, girl, who are you?
Oh my gosh.
You weirdo. Like, you know, and she worked in the Bush White House. She was part of that compassionate conservative bunch of newcomers, millennials coming up. And then
I thought she was supposed to be the future. Like, that's back when the Republican Party was sane. And I was like, she was like part of the Young Guns program, which was,
she was the youngest member of Congress, I think, at the time, right? To be elected or something.
She was youngest woman, I believe, at the time. Because what's his name from down south was another one that got elected. The little short one. I forget his name now. It's all a blur now. Those days are a blur. But yeah, we really thought that, like, we're like, okay, we're building a stable that Paul Ryan
came up and
Eric Cantor and McCarthy. They were all at the head of that whole thing. And she was part of that candidate recruitment. And we're like, she's great. And then she flipped on a dime, saw the opportunity to become a Trumper and decided to hitch her wagon to MAGA and remade herself and became a horrible person. And Harvard kicked her off the advisory board there at the Institute of Politics, as they should have, because she did not condemn January 6th. And it was like, what? No, we can't have this. And the rest is history. And now she's a MAGA fembot. And
well, you know what's funny too? She went to high school at that private school. With, oh God, what's her name? She was like the senior advisor, top advisor to Andrew Cuomo.
Oh, you would know. That's New York politics.
Yeah.
Patrick McHenry. That's who I was thinking.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. Anyway,
you're like a little short guy.
Yeah, little short guy.
Yeah, and like their friendship was completely ruined during the whole, you know, when she started the feud with Cuomo back during 2020 or whatever, like America's Worst Governor, and like the two of them are. But
it's all just a mess. Listen, the people of North Country deserve better, and hopefully Blake can bring that. So
yes. And a Democrat has won there before. And if you're watching, I just want people to understand this. Bill Owens was a Democrat that won, and how he won was there was a split. There was a Republican and then a conservative who was running as an independent third party. Mm-hmm. And so because of that, you know, it siphoned off enough votes that the Democrat won. And there's a good chance that that's going to happen again in this race. There's a guy from Amsterdam, New York, who's kind of cuckoo pants, and he's like a Roger Stone. I mean, he's like a Roger Stone MAGA guy. We can talk about him more another time.
Yes. But as it gets closer, we'll revisit that.
Yeah, and then there's another guy named Mark Molinaro. He at one point represented downstate somewhere, and they got redistricted, and he just lost. So, but he's one of those that just like wants to run wherever that'll take him. So again, not from the district. Neither one of them are. But he's like the more normie. So I
using that loosely.
Yeah, loosely. I could see the normie getting, you know, the county chair the party chair could pick him.
Yeah.
And then Roger Stone guy, cuckoo pants, would be like, no, I'm running too, because make America great again. Mm-hmm. And this could be an opportunity for somebody like Blake, who is so likable and so relatable, you know, to come in and sweep in and pick up the votes. Because, you know,
yeah, and in situations like this, in special elections, and this goes for anywhere, not just 21, but special elections, or even though this term is banned really from our vocabulary, but off-year elections, like in New Jersey, not a thing. Okay, off years don't exist. There's always
not a thing,
right? Not a thing. And so we don't really say anything because it's never an off year. But the odd year elections, like New Jersey and Virginia have now, there's always something going on. And whether it's state and local elections, which are really, 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 really important, it's all about ground game. It's get out the vote, because you will hear me say this often, the most committed wins.
Yep.
A lot of times in these primaries or special elections or in like the state and local elections, it's all about who you can galvanize with the most support, who's most committed to get out there and vote, because people don't freaking pay attention. And then that's how we end up with the wackadoos. So we're here to make sure people stay focused, they pay attention, and realize that every election matters, including these special elections, especially with the House being as close as it is. Somebody drops dead or somebody gets convicted or something, you could, there's not a lot of margin of error here. So these special elections matter, and there's an opportunity to flip a seat. We need to go all in and support those folks. So
yes,
that's our electoral good karma for the week.
And Tara, thank you for, being so cool. I mean, when I told Tara, I was like, there's this great guy running up in New York 21. I was like, how I feel about New York 21. It's like, it lets me down over and over and over and over again. But it's just, like I said, it's a beautiful place.
And it's
people are good. And it's just, but they vote for Trump. And I don't understand it.
Look, it's a microcosm of a lot of other places that are struggling with that. And, part of that white rural rage that we've talked about before, and the changing demographics. And there's a lot going on.
Post-industrial, no jobs and, opportunity, high unemployment,
so,
a lot of places upstate New York.
Right. We get it. And oftentimes low information voters on things. And when you have someone that is from there that can talk to people and meet them where they are, it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to maybe change those things. So no, my pleasure. Look, if it was New Jersey 5, which is my home district, I'd be like all about it. So no, it's
I
important.
Appreciate it.
And and
thanks again to Blake and his team for taking the time and making the time to do this with us live too.
Of course. I have a connection to upstate New York also. It's not 21, but my grandfather, we had property, we call it up the country, outside Oneonta. So in Davenport, New York, where my grandfather had property for decades and decades. And so I grew up going up the country with my grandpa in the summers. I learned how to drive up there in an old Army Jeep he had.
Oh, wow.
When I was like 9.
A lot easier to drive there in Paramus and
a lot more open space. Yes, correct. I mean, I used to have to take 2 feet to put the clutch down because the thing was so old. It was hysterical. And then he would he would have hay, and I would ride the tractors and mow the lawn, and he would tell me never go out of second gear, and I was like, yeah, all right, Gramps. And of course I'd crank it up to 4th gear on the tractor, and he could hear me. He'd be like, second gear. And I was like, all right, Gramps. I had great memories growing up as a kid up there.
The summers are so gorgeous too.
The best. So it's not New York 21, but it's up the country.
Yeah, no, it's all very similar. I mean, it's a similar climate, but sort of until you get
up the country for me and down the shore for me. So I'm very happy. Very happy.
We like it. We like it.
All right. Well, we're going to go from the happy place now
to the bad place.
To the bad place. Do we have to? I don't want to. We were in such a happy place.
We have to.
I don't want to. All right. No, we have to, because I'm sorry, but what's happening this week is bullshit. Yeah. And the American people were looking around going, okay, this is bullshit. I'm going to go chronologically, because what happened earlier in the week, I think, is important, because it should give people a glimmer of hope. You often hear me say that the righteous anger of the American people collectively can make a difference. Sometimes it doesn't feel that way, but it works. And what happened on Tuesday, with Trump deciding to send out this directive to just freeze all of the federal funding, which is about $3 trillion worth of money.
Insane.
I just be like, yeah, no, nobody can spend it anymore. We're freezing it all until we review to see if there's any waste, fraud, and abuse. Okay, first of all, that's a bunch of bullshit. Is there waste, fraud, and abuse? Yes.
Sure.
Are you going to solve that by freezing all federal funding illegally, by the way, because this is appropriated by Congress and authorized by Congress to be used? You can't just do this. That's the whole purpose of having 3 branches of government and having the system that we have in place, so that the executive can't impound money and say, nope, you can't use this. They can't weaponize this process. They tried to do that, right? They tried to do this. That's what Nixon tried to do. And they're like, oh, actually, we might have to pass a law to stop that, so we can't weaponize that again. And Donald Trump was like, I don't care what the law says. I'm going to push it and see how far I can take it.
And who's going to stop me?
Right, who's going to stop me? Well, he pushed it too far this time. It created absolute chaos. When I say chaos, I mean absolute chaos. Because I think some people know what they're doing, but a lot of them don't. This is just like a vanity project for them. And they get off on the idea of, oh, I can stop this and I have power to do this. Oh, let's do it. It's like, they're like arsonists here. And so I was up on the Hill on Tuesday. I had some meetings up there. I spoke to a girls intern group up there on the House side. I posted some of those stories on Instagram. It was happy. It was a happy place for me to be up on the Hill again. I actually shed a tear or two. I miss it. I loved my time on Capitol Hill. I loved it. It was the best 7 years. Anyway, so I was on that side, and then I was on the Senate side. I can tell you that the activity, the House was actually out of session, but the Senate was in session. And my friend, who's the chief of staff of a certain senator who I will not name, was like, it's Panic at the Disco up here. I was like, what's going on? The phones were ringing off the hook.
Oh, yeah.
Off the hook.
Which is inspiring. I mean, it's invigorating. I was actually telling a couple of friends about your experience, and I was like, no, the phones are ringing off the hook. She was like, they were?
Off the hook.
Americans are pissed.
Yes. Because freezing all federal funds means everything from Meals on Wheels to veterans benefits to
loans. My God,
loans. People have no idea how intertwined the federal government is in our everyday lives because you take it for granted because it actually runs pretty well. And so imagine that. So to disrupt
and keep us safe, by the way, too, which is a whole nother thing.
We're going to get to that in a second. So people were flipping out, and I have to give the Democrats credit because they were actually on message here with the impact this was having, and the pressure worked. Trump and his stupid minions had to rescind it. They had to back off because because even Republicans were like, yeah, y'all can't do this. You're going to get us thrown out of Congress too. This is worse than a shutdown. Worse.
Oh, yeah.
Because at least in a shutdown, you still have essential services are still functioning. This was people didn't know what to do. Government offices we don't know what to do. We're just going to close. We don't know what to do.
Yeah.
The Medicare and Medicaid portals weren't working. That's senior citizens. That's
and then they tried to deny that was happening.
Right.
I mean, that's the other thing. It's again, it's telling people not to believe their eyes and ears again and again and again. They keep doing this.
Yes.
And it's up to us to believe what we see, believe what we hear, and hold them accountable for it.
I see in the comments, Eileen said, Michelle inspired me to call Sheldon Whitehouse about the RFK nomination. See?
And listen, he was kind of hard on him.
He was.
He did say, for as hard as he could be, he said to RFK Jr., people are terrified of you. And I'm paraphrasing. I don't know if that's exactly the words, but he said something to that effect. People are terrified of you. And he doesn't care, but
because he's a sociopath. That guy is a psycho. And right. And so that's the win that we'll take earlier in the week, because I don't know that we're going to get any others right now. Maybe, I don't know that. I think the RFK nomination is in trouble.
I think you're right. I think
it's legitimately in trouble, which is a good thing. And
public health is
keep the pressure. Because that's what's going to work. Because you see the real human interest stories of people saying I survived polio, and this is what there's real life. Right. Mitch McConnell, there's another congressman that also was talking about how he still suffers the effects from having childhood polio. We're literally talking about life or death here. And when RFK's cousin, Caroline Kennedy, put out this bonkers video where it would have sunk anyone else in any other normal time. Well, a lot of things would have sunk him. The heroin, the brain worm, the anti-vaxxer stuff, the cheating, the bear,
the wife committing suicide after reading the journal about the 37 women he was sleeping with. It's just
the sexual assault accusations from the nanny. Any one of those things would have been in normal times.
Right.
Wasn't it? It was Linda Chavez or someone that had to withdraw her nomination because she had a undocumented nanny that she didn't pay taxes on or something, and that sunk her. Sunk her at one time. Imagine. I wish we could go back to those days. So anyway, I think that he had a rocky nomination hearing, and we have some clips from that. And I'm glad that they took him to task, because this guy is not qualified. He's going to get freaking people killed, and maybe the death cult will finally not send us off to kill us all. I don't know.
Hope so. If anything, it's, everything's important, but this feels personally very important, especially having just come out of a pandemic and staring down the barrel of perhaps
bird flu,
another one. If we don't take care of this, So I say all that to say, the day before the hearing, people obviously were talking about him on the Senate floor, trying to convince their colleagues one way or another, telling stories about him. And Senator Brian Schatz of Hawaii told a story. Apparently people like knew about this. I try not to know things about Robert F. Kennedy Jr. because I think he's crazy and he's always been crazy, and I just don't want to know anything.
No.
But
and
this
that
is
voice, I can't do it. I know it's a medical
like,
thing or something, but I can't. It's like,
whatever.
What did you say it was? It was like Catherine
Hepburn like swallowed glass.
It's horrible.
I'm going straight to hell for that one.
I mean,
but it's true. I can't even listen to it. And his cousin, Jack Schlossberg, who's Caroline Kennedy's son, he's like 30 something years old, and he is a real hoot. Follow him on Instagram. He is hilarious. And he was actually had a big role to play with his mom speaking out, because he was going, he's like, why am I the only one? I've got like 28 cousins. Like, why is no one else talking? He's like, I guess media, if you want to ask my cousins what they think, and if they want to tell any stories about, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., if they're going to be silent, I guess they agree with him. And I think that spooked some people, especially his mom, who's, she's a great lady and she's been through a lot and
accomplished in her own
very
right.
accomplished. She's been an ambassador, I think, to 2 different countries.
Yeah, Japan and Australia, I believe.
Yeah. So, so she spoke out, called him a predator.
Right.
It was pretty remarkable.
I mean, your family knows you the best. They know you the best.
Family.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, they got all kinds of stuff.
That family is complicated. So for them to come out, they all came out against him when he ran for president again, in the primary.
Yes.
Pretty much the whole family went to support Biden and then Kamala, because they were like the guy's nuts. He's horrible. He's terrible. No.
And this story that Senator Schatz told the day before the hearing started, I didn't know about it. I gasped when I heard him tell the story. And then he also talks a little bit about, the privilege of being a Kennedy as well while he's doing all this stuff. So I'm going to play this right now. Let me just make sure it's in the right place. And it is. Here we go.
For the first time ever, we might have a health secretary who has actively fueled disease outbreaks. He has literally made a career out of lying about the safety of basic vaccines, and it is not an exaggeration to say lives will be lost if he is confirmed. He has cost lives pretending to be a public health expert before, and he will do it again at scale if he becomes the next health secretary. This is not just some random dude with his buddies kicking around weird ideas just for the hell of it. He's a Kennedy with an enormous fortune, parachuting into countries to tell lies and stop people from taking life-saving vaccines. In 2019, he flew to Samoa to discourage people from taking the measles vaccine, deepening a hesitancy that was already building. And it did work. Vaccination rates for eligible one-year-olds fell below 33%. And just 5 months later, Samoa found itself in the middle of a measles outbreak. 5,000 people got the measles. 83 people died because RFK Jr. decided to leave the east coast of the continental United States and fly clear across the Pacific to Samoa to tell people not to take the measles vaccine. This is the nominee for the Secretary of Health and Human Services. In addition to spreading baseless lies about vaccines, he has also regularly spouted all kinds of deranged ideas, including, this is a direct quote, COVID was, quote, targeted to attack Caucasians and Black people.
What?
It's
the
like...
people who are most immune are Ashkenazi Jews and Chinese. He also claimed without any evidence that antidepressants are to blame for mass shootings and that chemicals in our water are turning our kids gay.
Sorry.
I don't know why this guy is going to get a single vote.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly, Senator.
Yep.
Like, why? That's the thing that frustrates me watching this entire process. These confirmation hearings are nothing but kabuki theater.
Oh,
because why are you giving deference to any of these people? They're not freaking qualified. Not only are they not
like
qualified,
some failed
they're
state shit. You know what I mean?
dangerous. Yeah, like that's what it frustrates me. I'm like, what the fuck are the Democrats doing?
I know.
Where is the outrage? Why are you saying, well, are you going to make sure that there are clean vaccine needles in all hospitals when you become HHS secretary? No, don't give them scenarios like as if they're actually going to
right.
Stop this. How about you just continue to go down the litany of reasons why they're not qualified and make them answer why they think they are. Sir, you said that water turns people gay and that Black people and Jews are more immune to such and such. And you had a bunch of people killed in Samoa because you unscientifically told them to not take a measles vaccine. Why should the American people trust you to run the Department of Health and Human Services? That's what they say. Not sitting here and going, is it true that can you tell us how you're going to make sure that vaccines get to our children now? Well, I actually never said that. Yes, the fuck you did. And here's where you said it.
Right. He did say it. And his obsession also with like this weird like eugenics aspect of all of this, like inferior races, really harkens back to the Tuskegee experiments. And that whole thing about, which is another thing that Senator Schatz was talking about on that same day.
Yes. Because his dad was
one of the first whistleblowers on the Tuskegee experiments when he was a doctor in Michigan or something like that. Yeah, I mean, it's incredible. But, I think that there's something very, very, very dark and sinister as it relates to not only what's going on in his head, like craziness, but all the other DEI, inferior race, gender crap that's going on.
That's why Trump likes him. That's why
Exactly.
Trump likes him. That's why MAGA embraced him, because he's got that undercurrent of the, those people are expendable. He didn't parachute into Nantucket with that bullshit. Don't take the measles stuff. No, he went to Samoa to take advantage of people there.
Yep.
And
they're stupid. They're not as smart as we are. So they're going to be, he infantilizes these people because they're easily persuaded because they don't know anything and they don't have access to information or anything. And he feels the same way about vaccines and how he thinks that Black people have different immune systems than white people and should be on a different vaccine schedule. Here, let me play another clip from the hearings. This is just absolutely batshit.
The following, and I quote, "We should not be giving Black people the same vaccine schedule that's given to whites because their immune system is better than ours." Can you please explain what you meant?
There's a series of studies, I think most of them by Poland, that show that to particular antigens that Blacks have a much stronger reaction. There's differences in reaction to different products by different races.
So I have 17 seconds left. Let me just ask you then. So what different vaccine schedule would you say I should have received? What different vaccine schedule should I have received?
I mean, the Poland article suggests that Blacks need fewer antigens than
this is so dangerous.
You get the same measles vaccine.
Mr. Kennedy, with all due respect, that is so dangerous. Your voice would be a voice that parents would listen to. That is so dangerous. I will be voting against your nomination because your views are dangerous to our state and to our country.
Good for Senator Brooks, who, by the way, is the first Black woman to represent Maryland. And good for her. See, that's what you do. That's what you do. You put the display on crazy and say, America, this guy's not, No, you hear this? He's supposed to be in charge of kids' health, and parents are going to listen to you, and you're spreading this bullshit. That's how you do it.
And he already has a chokehold on white suburban moms. I mean, like, let's be real. There is a real problem going on with people in certain parts of the country that believe this shit and won't vaccinate their kids.
Vaccination rates are down. They're down. Yeah. People, and it's white people that are doing this. White suburban moms.
Private schools who can, like, skirt the rules and things like that. It's absolutely bonkers. And so, first of all, I don't really think that I like the way he says blacks. I don't like that at all.
No, that's just
super not slurry.
Right. Like, no.
Yeah.
Like, it's all he's missing is the blacks. Those people, you people. That was the only next thing coming. Like, the whole thing is giving me the ick. And I really hope that it's bad enough that I think I might have even tweeted this out, where I was like, we barely survived the death cult the first time. This guy's a quack. And why are we trying to send ourselves? Like, are we on a suicide mission as a country or what? It's bad enough that they elected Donald Trump again. Now we have to do this. Like, I don't know. We'll see.
I have a couple more clips just because I just.
Which ones? Because I think it's important that we.
Well, the Tuberville.
Oh, yes, we could play that.
This is a whole bunch of crazy.
Yeah, we could play that. Yes, for sure.
Let's play this. He said this to Robert F. Kennedy Jr. I think, was it yesterday? I forget when.
We have
I think so. It was a month ago.
Attention deficit problem in this country. Attention deficit, when you and I were growing up, our parents didn't use a drug, they used a belt and whipped our butt, and told us to sit down. Nowadays, we give them Adderall and Ritalin. They're like candy across college campuses and high school campuses. Mr. Kinney.
So I guess my next question is, Senator Tuberville, what's it like to be born with CTE? Because there's something not going right. Were you dropped on your head? I'm just asking questions.
Yeah.
Because that man is not right.
No.
Anytime I don't feel qualified for anything in my life, I listen to that man talk and I'm like, you are a United States Senator. You beat a wonderful, good man who took on some of the most extremist groups in this country in court, and would have been a great representative to continue representing the state of Alabama.
Doug Jones down there in Alabama.
Yeah, Doug Jones. Yeah. But instead, you elected a football coach who
is a moron.
Yeah.
He might know football. Whatever. But he's a moron. This is not the most idiotic thing this guy has ever said. He said all kinds of asinine things. He's a moron. And not for nothing.
He's the one who held up the military. Yeah, the military promotions for how long?
Yes.
I mean, people's families were waiting in the wings because he's just like, abortion. Like,
and undermining our national security, too. It was undermining.
Yes. He's a complete idiot. He's destructive. I can't stand him. Like, oh my God, the worst. And the last clip I just want to play really quick.
Oh, wait, before you say that, I don't want to pass over the corporal punishment thing, which,
which is
like, that is, I mean, studies have shown that doesn't work. That actually is not good for children. It actually is harmful to them. And if he wants to go back, is that the times that he wants to go back to make America great again? To like, beat your kids with a switch. So what else does he want to go back to? Because back in those days, they used to hang black people from trees in Alabama too. You want to go back to that part, motherfucker? I can't with these people.
I know. Listen, this is the same reason that these people, especially, I mean, look at Sarah Huckabee, whatever her name is, in Arkansas, has signed laws to allow, child labor.
Yeah. Yeah. This is Make America Great Again, people. Yeah, that's great.
It's like the Gilded Age is what they're trying to bring back.
Oh, well, yes, the golden era. They've said it.
Right.
They've said it. Oh my God. There's just it's so much. There's so much.
It's so crazy. But the last clip I do want to play, because to Tara's point, I think putting these people on the spot, telling stories about your own life, humanizing this stuff with real consequences, I think is some of the most powerful questioning, I think, that was happening in the Senate. And Senator Hassan, am I saying it right?
Yes, from out there.
Yeah.
about the need for science to help us move forward on critical issues. Now, some of you are new to this committee and new to the Senate, so you may not know that I am the proud mother of a 36-year-old young man with severe cerebral palsy. And a day does not go by when I don't think about what did I do when I was pregnant with him that might have caused the hydrocephalus that has so impacted his life. So please do not suggest that anybody in this body of either political party doesn't want to know what the cause of autism is. Do you know how many friends I have with children who have autism? The problem with this witness's response on the autism cause and the relationship to vaccines is because he's relitigating and churning settled science so we can't go forward and find out what the cause of autism is and treat these kids and help these families. Mr. Kennedy, that first autism...
Anyways, I've stopped. I don't know if I guess I just don't have the whole thing, but yeah, it's like a study. It was a study it was a small group of people and then was like immediately debunked and retracted. And these people just, stayed on it and I'm just going to say it plainly. Vaccines do not cause autism. They don't cause autism. The end. Goodbye.
The end. Full stop.
Goodbye.
Full stop. And good for the junior senator from New Hampshire for being vulnerable and putting her story out there about that, because this is something that millions of families are going through and experience and have to live with, you can feel like she even like, did I do something wrong? Or, there are lots of parents, they're like, they don't, so to muddy the science and to put that bullshit out there is so irresponsible. And you know what? It's privilege too.
It's cruel.
Again, it's the privilege of being a Kennedy that can just, run around with these specious arguments and you latch onto this and just, these are real people's lives.
I know.
They're real people's lives. We're not your little experiment that you think that you can just play around with the American people. So how dare you?
And meanwhile, there's mothers in third world countries who are like putting their kids on their back and walking, 20 miles to make sure that their kids get a vaccine that could possibly prolong their life, the time that they'll be on this planet. And
because of science and doctors and real facts, not these quacks that come in with these wackadoodle ideas and think that they can play around with people's lives. I mean, it's people dedicated millions of dollars and billions of dollars in public health to try to get people healthy, and we got rid of polio and a lot of these things because of vaccination programs and what we've been able to do in third world countries to make the quality of life better because of science, which they want to get rid of.
Which, I just want to say really quick, the new press secretary at the White House, she's like 29 years old.
Carolyn Levitt.
I can't. I don't even know her name.
Didn't she work for Stefanik?
She did. Ugh. She did. And then she ran for Congress herself somewhere and she lost.
Of course she did.
But she's 29 years old and she's like just the little monster that Donald Trump's been waiting for.
But she's blonde.
She's blonde and she loves to lie. She just, she's like, I'm not going to lie. And then just immediately started lying.
So did the other blonde one, McEnany.
Oh yeah. She was the worst with her big ass binder. I'm like, stop. I can't with the theater.
No offense to blondes. I'm just saying.
Well, yeah. I mean,
I'm just being
great blonde people, but some people just breathe new life. But no, she got up behind the podium the other day and said, we're spending too much money. We spent $50 million sending condoms to Gaza. Okay.
And Trump repeated that.
Trump repeated it. First of all, it's not Gaza, the one that is in the conflict with Israel. It was like Gaza, Mozambique, where they're sending STD prevention,
part of the PEPFAR
specifically
program.
HIV, right? Yeah. Which was a program, right, that Bush was a big part of.
One of the biggest accomplishments of Bush's
his legacy.
Presidency. Yes.
Right.
To bring the number, countless lives in Africa.
Exactly. And it wasn't $50 million. It was $85 million sent to that part of the world to prevent the spread of HIV. And so, okay, moron, your bus is leaving. Like, I can't.
These people, what is
So
it?
stupid.
A cacistocracy, right? It's the people who are the worst, most unqualified people in charge of government. That's what we're living through. We're living
It's
through
like
a combination
Hunger
of that.
Games meets The Apprentice,
That's
meets
right.
Idiocracy, meets The Truman Show, meets
Yes.
Handmaid's Tale, meets Black Mirror. Like, I mean, the list meets The Real World. Like, you know what I mean? It just, I can't.
Literally the real world, because our transportation secretary
Oh my
was
God,
on
that's
the real
right.
world.
Jesus Christ.
Sean Duffy was on the real world in the 90s, people. That's who our transportation secretary is. And he's got like 12 kids with Rachel Campos, who was also on the Real World San Diego. And she's on Fox News. These are the people. They're not sending us their best.
No, they're not. And speaking of Duffy here is something I saw on Jessica Valenti's Twitter before I came on, and I pulled. Where is it? Here it is.
Jessica Valenti writes a great newsletter called Abortion Every Day. She's like an expert on women's reproductive health and does a lot of the deep dives into things to let us know what the hell's happening. And she said, quote, in a totally normal and not alarming memo, Trump's new transportation secretary directs staff to give preferential funding to communities with marriage and birth rates higher than the national average.
In writing. There it is.
Writing. Yeah.
And she includes a screenshot. If you're listening at home, there's a screenshot of the guidance that she includes. It's just bonkers.
It's bonkers.
Just bonkers.
And you know what else is bonkers? That there's been since we're talking about birth rates and public health, fetal personhood is coming up again.
Yep.
Which is their way. There's a bill, it's HR 722, introduced by some Missouri Republican named Representative Eric Burleson, co-sponsored by 67 Republicans in the House.
Yep.
And fetal personhood is the way that the same people who got Roe overturned, this is their way of now trying to go after IVF and abortion. This is, you need to pay attention to this language, because this is how they're going to try to do it.
Oh, absolutely.
This is what we warned about. We warned about this in our ad Hope over the summer about IVF, because when they were trying to take IVF away, people were going, oh, no, they won't. Yeah. Fetal personhood is the vehicle. That's what they're going to hide behind. There's headlines here on the screen: the end of IVF, what Trump's latest move means for your family's future. That's IVF and the future of reproductive health in America.
Yep. And this is Emily, and I never, if I'm saying it right, Emily Amick. Her handle is Emily in your phone. She is also a wealth of knowledge in this area. Go follow her, subscribe to her Substack. She's fantastic. So she wrote about that today, and that's actually what alerted me to it. But yeah, I have another thing here, another tweet from Everyday Activist. It could also impact IVF, miscarriage care, contraception. There's so much here. HR 722 seeks to grant constitutional rights to fetuses under the 14th Amendment, potentially banning abortion in all 50 states, even where it's legal. And that's what gets me, Tara, is because, all the women, all the people in the states that had ballot measures to protect or enshrine abortion rights or reproductive rights in their states. And then they went and voted for Donald Trump.
Right.
Because they thought, well, Donald Trump is promising me that he's not going to touch it. He leave it up to the states. And therefore, I have some control over what goes in my state. I'm going to vote that way to protect myself. But then I'm going to vote for Donald Trump because whatever, for reasons I'll never.
Because of the price of eggs, Michelle. Come on.
Right. Please. And then the bird flu. I can't. So that's why, our ad Hope, which we can play if you want, because
I think we should.
I'm in a particular mood of we told you so.
Yes.
We told you so. We told you so. We told you so. Project 2025 was real. They wrote it down. It was in a book. And then they laughed it off and told you it didn't exist until the day after the election. And then they said,
everything you were seeing, all this chaos we're seeing,
all of it
was all laid out, including what we're going to talk about next, which with this FAA air collision tragedy. All of this was written down in Project 2025, and JD Vance authored the freaking forward on it. They knew exactly. And this was their playbook all of it, and it's
Mhm.
happening right before our eyes. I think we should play Hope and remind
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
that this inspired our ad Hope over the summer. Obviously, it was from during the election, so ignore the election part of it, but the concept of it is still the same.
Yep. And here's Hope.
It wasn't easy getting here. The loss, the heartbreak. My wife is tough, resilient. She said, we'll just keep trying. I didn't know much about IVF until we needed it. There were moments when all hope felt lost. But we finally got our miracle. From the moment I held her, I vowed to protect her. If it were up to Donald Trump and J.D. Vance, our little girl wouldn't even exist. They don't care about the joys, the sacrifices. They only care about their control over our lives and her future. Who the hell are they to tell us how or when we become moms and dads? We know what's best for our families. It's time to stand together, not with any party, but as parents. Kamala Harris and Tim Walz get that. That's why this fall, I'm voting for her. I'm voting for hope.
It's still relevant. Still
It is.
relevant. We should recut that, I think, and reintroduce that ad. I think because it's still, unfortunately, it's evergreen with this fetal personhood bullshit. So, people need to pay attention.
I just want to say, if there's anybody here that's new to the Seneca Project, and maybe you weren't following us during the election, we make ads. We make great ads, content. That's what my background was before I came here. Tara and I are messengers, and we want to message to people in a real way from real people, talking about things that matter to everyday people, things like reproductive care access and IVF for people who struggle with fertility. And so we need your support to continue making this this kind of content that is meaningful, and that we can reach, not just make the content, but also place it so that we can reach people so that they can see it and they can understand why this matters and why it matters to them. And so, if you can imagine, we have so many ideas of things that we want to do now, next week, months from now, next year. We rely on the support of wonderful people like you who are tuning in tonight to watch this show and join Tara and myself. So I just wanted to make sure I got that in and reintroduce that aspect of the work that we do.
Yes, because we are humble in that way, where we don't really like saying.
I know. It's hard to just, and I'm like, okay, I probably remind people.
It's hard, but it's true. We do rely on the generosity of our supporters to be able to do our work, and the more resources we have. Yes,
we're so thankful because of our grassroots support, because we didn't launch the Seneca Project until June of last year.
Yep.
Because of that grassroots support, we were able to make ads like Hope, and we were able to target girl dads in swing states to make sure that they saw that message. And, the feedback we got from people was overwhelming, overwhelming.
And no one else, I challenge anyone else to find an ad that was from the dad's perspective on IVF. I don't know anyone else that did that the entire election cycle. I wish more people would have taken our lead on that, but So thank you guys. We appreciate that
very much.
Please keep supporting us.
Yes.
At senecaproject.us for those who are listening.
Thank you, Melissa. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you for that compliment. There was something else too that just was so infuriating besides what was happening with these confirmation hearings. And because of all of what was going on, we don't have any clips from Kash Patel and Tulsi Gabbard, which was going on today, because all the news coverage was focused on the air tragedy here in the DC area. And understandably, like we were saying at the beginning of the show. But what we did see, which we do have, is Donald Trump's press conference today. Now, we were in a meeting while this was going on, and Michelle's phone started blowing up, and she started hitting me on the chat and was like, holy shit, this is bonkers.
Yeah, cuckoo pants.
Donald Trump literally going on blaming DEI unsubstantiated, making this up, blaming DEI, Joe Biden and Obama and Pete Buttigieg for the air collision.
Yep.
Which is just so infuriating that now these people are trying to blame anything bad that happens on anyone who's not a white male. This is where we're going. This is what it's about.
And yeah, I mean, the worst air aviation accident and loss of life that we've had in a generation.
Yes.
And the problem is, and going back to what Tara was talking about before with the freezing of the federal funds and things, they've just been gutting the federal government, the agencies that we rely on to keep us safe, the public health agencies, the FAA. Here's a story. FAA administrator, the director, quit on January 20th after Elon Musk told him to resign. Now, Elon Musk is not president.
Nope.
Was not elected.
No.
But was
cosplaying as president.
Cosplaying. Was threatening the FAA director because, I don't know, something about SpaceX and something. And he's like, they're not going to let us leave Earth enough or something. And
yeah, he had beef with him because the other FAA administrator wanted to hold SpaceX accountable for some of the issues they had with their rockets and things. Imagine that the rules do apply to you. Yes. And Elon Musk didn't like it. So he had the FAA administrator quit on January 20th. Now, something that people need to know, it's customary for people in these jobs to stay over until there is a smooth transition. So there is no disruption because jobs like this that oversee the skies and our transportation, these are things that really we can't afford to have disruption on. So sometimes they'll stay over for a couple more months until there is a new FAA administrator, or sometimes they'll stay for another year or two. So these are really apolitical jobs.
Yeah.
Now it's the prerogative of a new administration to put their people in.
Sure.
But these are not the jobs where it's you got to go now. That was disruptive to do. And what happens a week later? Look at where we are. TSA is also in the sights of Project 2025. They want to privatize that, which is, again, is that really good public policy, or is this about lining the pockets of contractors that are buddies and donors to Donald Trump or whoever else he's bought off?
Right.
Now, the other thing here too, which we're starting to find out more because we're in the throes of the investigation. This is just happening. I mean, we're 24 hours in now, but we found out that the staffing, according to the AP and the New York Times, that the staffing was not normal in air traffic control at National last night during this mid-air collision. And the New York Times took it a bit further and said that the air traffic controller who was working was doing the job of two people. Usually they have one that focuses on helicopter traffic and one that focuses on airliner traffic. And this person, because of staffing shortages, was doing both.
Because there was a freeze. Donald Trump put a freeze on hiring for air traffic controllers, and they're already spread thin and overworked.
Yep.
And these people are under a huge amount of stress, obviously. They've got people's lives in their hands. Not to mention, they had been threatened with a purge in the days prior, telling federal workers, "Oh, you can quit early and we'll pay you some money." And it's some shit deal or something like that. But people are freaked out that they're going to lose their jobs.
Right. It was a threat.
On top of all of this.
Right. It was a threat. It's it's the same.
Yeah.
And it was
a purge.
Issued. Right. It was a purge. They're trying to purge federal workers because they want to replace them all with Trump lackeys.
Right.
And the guys who did this, that are running OPM, they're teenagers who are Elon Musk acolytes.
Literally teenagers.
And one was a camp counselor or some bullshit before.
Just graduated from high school.
Working in the Office of Personnel Management, which is the HR division of the entire federal government. It's a really important, logistical office.
Yes.
And these guys went rogue and decided to put out this memo. They called it a fork in the road, which is the same memo that Elon Musk sent out to the Twitter people. Same language when he took over Twitter and did a purge of the Twitter folks that weren't in line with him. This is nutso stuff, people. Nutso. And so, you know what? Mistakes are going to happen. People are stressed out. They're understaffed, underpaid, and like mistakes are going to happen. And you're going to turn around and blame it on DEI.
Oh my God. It's
before we went on air tonight, Joy Reid was on in the background as I was preparing, and her show prepared a really good graphic about this. 2022 FAA diversity breakdown. Occupation, pilots, 94% white. Mechanics and techs, 84% white. Engineers, 83% white. Air traffic controllers, 78% white. So is this a DEI problem? I don't think so. But they are using this as a scapegoat because they have the idea that anyone who is not a white male is lesser than and less competent. And that is racist. They are threatened by anyone who doesn't look like them. And this is a trope that is causing major divisions in this country that are unfair and dangerous. It's a lie, a lie.
Yep. And Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez tweeted, "I represent LaGuardia Airport as well as workers for JFK. Trump gutted the Aviation Safety Committee last week. Air traffic controllers already understaffed, got Trump's buyout," which, and this is Michelle speaking, the purge, because that's what it is, "this week with a 1-week ultimatum to decide. It is not DEI, it is him. And it's Elon too." And because a reporter asked Donald Trump, are you saying this crash was caused as a result of diversity hiring? And Trump said, well, it could be.
Right.
Like, it's so bonkers bananas. And, you know, and then for them to come out, and Max Kennerly tweeted this too, Trump, Vance, Hegseth, and Combs all said they were briefed on the collision. They have information that we in the public do not have as to who was flying what happened, as they started an investigation here. But they all knew this internal FAA report when they went on TV to blame minorities for the crash. So they very willingly and willfully did this. And
mark my words, I'm concerned. We don't know yet. Maybe by the end of the show we'll know. But we know that the pilots were not Black. The pilots were white men. I suspect that the air traffic controller may have been Black. And that's what gave them the pass to blame this on DEI. Which,
I wouldn't
again,
even put it past them, though.
No, I wouldn't. They could have made it up completely, but I feel they always take a little sliver of truth and then they spin it into this
like
nonsense.
Just like to Gaza.
Yes. Or like when Charlie Kirk and those guys, wrong Gaza. When Charlie Kirk and those guys started running around saying that they wouldn't fly if there was a Black pilot, when there was like a near miss or something. And it was like implying that Black pilots somehow were not as well qualified as others because they're automatically, you know, quota people and this DEI. Like this is this whole undercurrent that anyone who's not a white male is lesser than is a problem. This is a problem.
I don't know about you, Tara. So anybody watching, I am not a good flyer. I did not spend my childhood on airplanes. So I flew for the first time a little bit later in life. And so I have a pretty crippling fear of flying that I've done a lot of work to deal with. And it was, you know, post 9/11, it got worse for me. But I'll say, when I get on an airplane and I see either 2 female or 1 female pilot or a Black pilot, anyone who's not a white man, I feel 10 times safer because I know that those people had to work 10 times harder to get where they are. So that's just me. I mean, when I say that, Joe and I were on a flight last year and both of the pilots were women. And I was like, oh.
Yeah, that's actually, and given that there's not that many, there's more now, thankfully, because there's more opportunity, to imply that means that they're lesser than is just so ignorant. It's ignorant. And so, you know, before times when we all didn't have equal rights, like that's what they want to make America again. They want to make America. And we're exploring this concept a little bit more, because it's more than just racism and misogyny. People check out when you hear those words because they're like, oh, we're not racist. So we're working on changing that messaging a little bit. They are threatened by us. They are threatened by us. Why? Why are they so threatened by other people who are better than them, or just as good, or if not better? Because they're worried about being replaced. And that's the
same thing with Tuskegee.
Bullshit.
I mean, they were doing these experiments because they thought that Black people were inferior biologically. And then, they were training all these pilots for World War II and put them in their own group and category. And of course, they were outperforming because they're incredible pilots. I saw a story the other day, and I would love to talk about this on another show when I look more into it. But, the first Top Gun, they set up the Top Gun, we all know from the movie, that's a real thing.
Yep.
And it was a Black pilot who won the first time. And then they were like, oh, well, never mind.
Yeah. And they didn't want to give him credit for it. And that's why same thing with part of this, getting rid of the DEI programs. We talked about this last week, where they were trying to get people to snitch on them. Well, after the show last week, we found out that they were they wanted to get rid of the Tuskegee Airmen curriculum at the Air Force Academy, literally
so
ignoring history, erasing history. We're not doing it. Why? Why would you want to erase the history of the Tuskegee Airmen from the Air Force curriculum, other than you are threatened by the fact that they were more than just white male pilots who were part of winning World War II? What are we trying to indoctrinate our generations with? It's insanity. And we're not going to let them do it. We are not going to let them do that and erase history and try to change it. This is Orwellian shit here. And we're not going to let them. We are not going to let them.
And if anybody wants to, this is obviously a fictional show based on real events, but Masters of the Air, which is the third series from Band of Brothers and the Pacific. It's about, the pilots in the beginning parts of the war in Europe. And there's a whole episode about the Tuskegee Airmen and what they had to go through, which I think would be an amazing spinoff. Steven Spielberg and John Orloff, you should write one. It broke my heart and also made me cry and feel proud and all of the things. It's really, really, really good. So if you haven't seen Masters of the Air, please go watch it, especially that episode. But I did get a message from, I have a lot of friends who work in government and whatnot. I did get a message from someone who's watching that was talking about Elon and said that Elon likely told this FAA guy to resign so that he would have free reign to the airspace for his rocket tests and launches without the pushback. So really, again, at the end of the day, it's about his phallic rocket sending up into the air that, and lining his pockets with taxpayer money. You and me are paying for Elon Musk to do all of this. So
that's appreciate that insight, because it's true. And as someone, and people know, if you guys watch the show or follow me on social media, I talk often about my amateur interest in space and rockets and stuff. And my husband and I do astronomy things. And we were just down on the Space Coast and saw 3 rocket launches.
There needs to be an adult space camp. I'm just putting it out there.
I mean, I would be the first to sign up. Me too. We could go together and we could put on the suits and do the anti-gravity things and run around and
it's just the best.
We did
all the rich kids went to space camp.
I know. I wanted to go so bad when I was a kid and we couldn't afford it. And because I wanted to be an astronomer. When I was in third grade, I was like, I want to be an astronomer, Mom. And my mom would take me to the Museum of Natural History and the planetarium, Hayden Planetarium in New York. And I was fascinated with all of it. And I built a little model thing with a satellite thing. I wanted to go, but we couldn't afford it. And then I found out being a scientist and an astronomer meant you had to be in a lab
really hard.
And I was like, well, it wasn't that it was really hard. I just didn't want to be in a lab and never go out anywhere. All of that.
Math and science isn't really my thing. I did okay, but I didn't excel
I was
in that kind of way.
Maybe not. Maybe I'll just have a hobby. But I was really into it as a kid. So we were down there, and the closest thing to adult space camp is Kennedy Space Center. And my husband and I
I've actually never
around.
been.
It's very cool. It's so cool. We were skipping around and had a great time.
The plague these days, but maybe someday.
Yeah,
maybe someday.
But anyway, so it is really like there is great work being done with what SpaceX is doing, but there has to be oversight.
And
They are doing it because of the taxpayer subsidies, because Elon Musk would never have been able to do it.
And me.
Yeah, without taxpayer money. Like SpaceX was failing until NASA gave him massive contracts. So people need to understand that.
Same with Tesla.
Correct. And so we may or may not be making that point soon from the Seneca Project. Stay tuned. But it's important. So for him, he thinks the rules don't apply. And they just did it. They just had a rocket launch 2 weeks ago that part of it was successful, but part of it blew up. It blew up, and we saw it was pretty spectacular over the Caribbean. The Turks and Caicos, they had the people were like, holy shit, what's happening here? And it was the part of the vehicle that blew up. The rocket came back, but the spacecraft that it was a test. Thank God there was nobody in it, but that blew up and it caused all kinds of problems with air traffic control. So, like there's reasons for this, and he shouldn't get preferential treatment. The rules apply to him too. But he doesn't want it that way. And this is what happens when you have an oligarchy come in, when the president's friends buy the presidency and they can do whatever the hell they want. And that's the whole reason why Elon Musk is around. It's because of that. He wants that preferential treatment. And we're going to talk more about Elon in another episode, because Michelle and I was sharing with her some information about his name and where it came from. And it's bonkers, but we're going to save that for another day. We're going to
and just like on the space thing, and like it makes me nostalgic for a different time when NASA, like we got excited about shuttle launches and things like that. And
I've seen too.
I think my parents have actually seen one when they were in Florida, but I've never seen one. But it's today's the 30th. The Challenger explosion anniversary was 2 days ago. Which was a terrible day for this country. And as much as I am not a Ronald Reagan fan, I was looking at the speech that he addressed the country. And he said, "We will never forget them, nor the last time we saw them. This morning, as they prepared for their journey and waved goodbye and slipped the surly bonds of earth to touch the face of God."
Beautiful.
Beautiful. I mean, even if you didn't like the guy or you weren't a Republican, you could look to somebody like that and feel like that's my president being there as a leader to us in this terrible moment and tragedy.
Yes.
But instead, Donald Trump today, before we came on, signed an executive order blaming, this is an actual executive order, not just like bitching and moaning, blaming Barack Obama, Joe Biden, and diversity.
There's no words.
I have a clip because I think it needs to be seen.
Yes.
To be
People
believed.
need to hear it in his own words. Yep.
Presidential memorandum titled Immediate Assessment of Aviation Safety. In light of the damage done to aviation safety by the Biden administration's DEI and woke policies, what this presidential memorandum orders is for your Secretary of Transportation and FAA administrator, in this case, acting FAA administrator, to basically ensure that we are actively undoing all of that damage, that we are assessing how much damage was done, and that we're ensuring that people hired within the FAA, in keeping with your memorandum of January 21st, are only the most outstanding, capable people for the jobs that they're being hired into.
In other words, competence.
Yes, sir. Elevating competence over.
The absolute irony of that man talking to anyone about competence is just rich. Rich, because as he sits there looking Oompa Loompa, like more Oompa Loompa than he ever has with those eyebrows too. I don't know that he's running the country right now. I think that it's Stephen Miller. I think that it's Elon Musk. I think it's Susie Wiles, and the Heritage Foundation is running the country right now. And I think that they let Grandpa go up there on the stage and do his little song and dance and P.T. Barnum show. And then he goes back and has a little nap and a snack and some cookies and milk, and then puts some more EOs on his desk. And then he gets to sign his name that looks like an EKG of like a Chihuahua. Like I can't. It's so and it's all the show.
Yes,
it's all the show. It's same thing.
the show.
Same. And one of the last things I just wanted to mention today too was that he made this announcement from the White House, and it was a bigger speech, but all that I heard was detention camp for migrants at Guantanamo Bay with a row of military officers behind him, which
I tweeted it. I tweeted
the
about it.
clutching from a certain CNN anchor a couple years ago, and Biden had a couple Marines stand behind him, God forbid, created her own controversy about it, and then reported on the controversy like it was other people. And I'm like, no, girl, you did that. That's you.
Yeah.
Stop.
And that, just to be clear, that was Biden's Soul of the Nation democracy speech in Philadelphia near Independence Hall, where the Marine Corps band was playing. And it was an actual, like, the drama of it in the wide shot was beautiful, like the way it was lit. But because I guess whoever did it didn't think about the close-in shot, so it made it look like ominous and red behind him. So, but in person in the wide shot, it was actually quite beautiful, and it was relevant, and he wasn't using the military as an intimidation tactic.
Right.
This, and I tweeted about this because I noticed, I'm like, why is Trump lined on each side with military members standing behind him? Yeah, very dictator energy. And it's to intimidate. It has nothing to do with the military per se. It was to intimidate and to announce that, oh, now the military is going to have detention camps in Guantanamo for undocumented folks, for illegal aliens.
Here's a clip here of him saying it. Hold on.
In order to instruct the Departments of Defense and Homeland Security to begin preparing the 30,000-person migrant facility at Guantanamo Bay. Most people don't even know about it. We have 30,000 beds in Guantanamo to detain the worst criminal illegal aliens threatening the American people. Some of them are so bad we don't even trust the countries to hold them because we don't want them coming back, so we're going to send them out to Guantanamo. This will double our capacity immediately, right? And that's a tough place to get out of.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
So just, another thing this week on the 27th was International Holocaust Remembrance Day. And it's the 80th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz. And just want to remind people that the Holocaust began as a mass deportation operation. That's how it began. And this is so chilling. Guantanamo Bay, there is notorious, and there's so much controversy surrounding that place because of the torture tactics that were going on after September 11th. And there's all kinds of like weird, I mean, you would know more about this, Tara, than me, about like gray area laws and things that are going on offshore. I mean, scary stuff. It's scary stuff. There's some extrajudicial issues here. I don't even know if it's constitutional for them to detain people at Guantanamo. For Patriot Act, though, that's the thing. It's like all they have to do is say someone's an enemy combatant or
that's
something,
true.
Right?
But they would have to, 30,000 of them. There's a lot of questions I have about this. Yeah. But again, it goes back to they're pushing the limits and they think that, well, they have the jurisdiction to do it. Who's going to stop us? But they will continue to overstep. I think where the devil always give him enough rope, he'll hang himself. Yep. And, that's what happened this week. And with the federal freeze, and they were forced to reverse it. I think that, we're not going to win all these battles, but there are still some opportunities that for them to go too far and for people to speak up to. Absolutely. And AOC, this is before he even made that speech. AOC was on the floor on the House side last week, reminding people when this starts happening, they're going to try to play stupid. But they're not. They knew. I just want it on the record. Here's a clip.
When a private prison camp opens in your town, when a dreamer...
Time has expired. I yield the gentlelady an additional 30 seconds.
So when a private prison camp opens in your town and they say, we didn't know this was going to happen, know that they did, and they voted for it. When a dreamer is disappeared from your classroom, when the President of the United States destroys what is left of the Constitution as he's announced in this attack on birthright citizenship, they will all say, we didn't know this was coming. And I want the American people to know that they did. This vote represents it. And with that, I yield back. Thank you very much.
And Lady yields. We reserve.
She's, for however people feel about her, she has broken away from the more extreme wing of the party, in my opinion.
Which I'm glad to see.
I am too. And she is one of the Democrats that is speaking in a way that, again, she's a real person. She's speaking in plain language to people in a way that is resonating, that even our friend George Conway, George Conway was on Blue Sky reposting her like crazy today.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually wrote him a little note, and I was like, I've noticed that you have been reposting her.
Yeah.
And it warmed my heart a little bit. And he's just like, well, I don't agree with her a lot of the time, but we have a singular focus, and that's saving the country and communicating in a way that is effective. And she's the one to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So
I feel the same way, and I respect what she's doing. There needs to be more of that energy, Democrats, that energy. We're not talking about the left-wing policies that before we didn't agree. It's bigger than that now. It's about pointing things like this out and speaking directly to people. And, AOC is doing that. Dan Goldman is doing that. Jasmine Crockett has been on fire doing that.
We love her.
Love her, love her, love her.
And on the Senate side too. I mean, this is why we play stuff. I mean, they're a little less, I think,
Yeah, it's a little more genteel.
A little like more polite, but Chris Murphy and Brian Schatz and
Booker.
The Senate Dems are trying. They're trying, especially the younger guys.
Even Chuck Schumer's trying. He's doing more of these
they have this new series called "Shit That Ain't True," which is like, Chuck's like, "Shit that ain't true," and it like holds a little microphone up to his hand or up to his mouth. It's like kind of funny, but
it's kind of funny. But they're trying.
Yeah.
But more of that energy. Of that energy.
Yes.
So. Well, on that note, speaking of energy, I think we've expended all of ours tonight because it's been a week.
We have, and I appreciate all the people because we're looking at the numbers, and there's like our numbers of people that are watching are continuing to climb, which is just honestly amazing. And we are just so touched and honored that you are spending your evening with us.
Yes.
And, sometimes we go over because there's just too much to talk about, and we only do this once a week, so might as well.
Yeah, there's a lot to talk about, and we produce this ourselves. No one's telling us what we can or cannot do. That's why it's important to support us as independent folks. So, but anyway, thank you guys. We appreciate you. We will see you next week. Make sure you like and subscribe to Seneca Project on all of the socials and on YouTube, and spread the word to your friends and keep bringing them in because we're seeing the numbers go up every week. And that's thanks to you guys spreading the word for us. So keep it up. Thank you so much. And keep the faith. We're in this together.
Hang in there, everybody.
Small wins. All right, guys. We'll see you next week.
Mass deportation.
Largest deportation program in American history.
Travel ban. Muslim ban.
Confusion erupted at airports.
Clearing the streets of peaceful protesters.
This is now a political stunt.
The president saying, why don't we nuke them?
It's floated the idea of buying Greenland.
Not ruling out military force to acquire Greenland.
30,000 separate lies.
Flushed printed pieces of paper down the toilet.
Lavish spending.
Ethics investigations.
Extortion.
Bribery. Brazen influence peddling.
Threatened to withhold aid for California wildfires.
The president isn't leading.
Poor me.
The president caves.
Disclosed highly classified information to the Russian foreign minister.
Seeming to grovel in front of Vladimir Putin.
He was not the patriot he should have been.
Americans are dead because the president delayed.
Refused to act.
Ignored those warnings.
There's no vaccine that is safe and effective.
Go have a good time, Bobby.
No guardrails.
There are no independent agencies.
Surrounding himself with loyalists.
Answer to President Trump.
We're going to come after the people in the media.
They should go to jail.
We are watching an attempted sedition.
I am your retribution.
Jeff Bezos, Sam Altman, and Mark Zuckerberg pledging $1 million donations to the Trump Inauguration Fund.
The ABC settlement for $15 million.
The Los Angeles Times will soon be adding Scott Jennings to their editorial board after the owner is now calling for more conservative voices.
Joe and I went to Mar-a-Lago to meet personally with President-elect Trump.
John Fetterman saying he's a hard yes for Republican Congresswoman Elise Stefanik, posting on Truth Social that he wants Donald Trump to get a pardon.
If there is a way to work with Doge or Elon Musk, I'm going to do that.
This could be a constructive undertaking that ought to be embraced.
Senator Bernie Sanders saying Elon Musk is right. Some Democrats telling ABC News their plan to defeat Republicans in the 2026 midterms is to play nice for now.
It's time to buckle up, Buttercup, because it is about to be on and popping.
I would be worried about Hexbeth running a McDonald's, let alone the Department of Defense.
Say goodbye to your smile and say hello to polio.
Nancy Mace wants little girls and women to drop trow in front of who? An investigator? It is disgusting.
I'm really interested in the Democrats rebuilding Abigail Spanberger, who is running for governor in Virginia.
Congresswoman Mikey Sherrill of New Jersey, a former U.S. Navy helicopter pilot who is now running for governor.
Laguna Pueblo member and Secretary of the Interior Deb Haaland is expected to run for governor of New Mexico in 2026.
If Democrats are true to their values, they will do everything they can with the power that they have right now, which is limited, to prevent Donald Trump from doing the things that he's already announced he's going to do.
All presidents have the power of what's known as the bully pulpit.
During this serious international crisis, President Trump was busy attacking women.
There's something wrong with the woman.
She doesn't know what the hell she's doing. She's mean. She's crazy. She's vicious. She's lost it. She is incompetent.
President Donald Trump has attacked the British Prime Minister Theresa May.
He attacked Oprah Winfrey, Sally Yates,
Susan Rice. Republican Senator Lisa Murkowski.
He called Maxine Waters low IQ.
She's a real beauty.
The president launching a personal attack on MSNBC host Mika Brzezinski.
Now he's attacking Omarosa, comparing her to a dog.
The president lashed out, calling Stormy Daniels, I'm quoting the president now, horseface.
Remember the woman crying? Martha Raddatz, oh.
He attacks women reporters far more often than he attacks men.
You ask a lot of stupid questions. So horrid in the way you ask a question. You know you're a fake. I know you're not thinking. You never do.
I'm sorry?
No, go ahead.
The president also found time to launch a Twitter attack on Bette Midler.
He's attacking Jamel Hill.
Speaker Pelosi.
Hillary Clinton.
Michelle Obama. A 16-year-old climate activist.
He openly mocked Christine Blasey Ford.
What neighborhood was it in? I don't know.
President Trump is someone who knee-jerk attacks the credibility of female accusers.
She's made this charge against others.
Carol claims Trump assaulted her.
I saw her in a picture. She is not my type.
Kamala Harris, she could never be the first woman president.
Do American women in this country, can they know that the president has their back?
Well, absolutely not, Katie.
I always thought women liked me.
And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything.
Whatever you want.
Grab them by the pussy.
I make this statement to the great women.
Questionable comments about a young girl.
You going up the escalator? I'm going to be dating her in 10 years. Can you believe it? I am your protector.
Carol opening her testimony today saying, quote, I'm here because Donald Trump raped me.
I want to be your protector.
5 former Miss Teen USA contestants told BuzzFeed that Trump did in fact walk in on them while they were changing.
And so I sort of get away with things like that.
You will no longer be abandoned, lonely, or scared.
Donald held back Ivana's arms and began to pull out fistfuls of hair from her scalp.
You're not going to be in danger any longer.
I turned around and I see Donald standing there. I'm thinking, this son of a bitch just grabbed me.
Women will be happy, healthy, confident, and free.
Trump called Epstein a terrific guy, adding, it is even said that he likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side.
You will no longer be thinking about abortion.
They're gonna just let me bleed out here.
Do you believe in punishment for abortion? Yes or no, as a principle?
The answer is that there has to be some form of punishment.
For the woman?
Yeah. You will be protected, and I will be your protector. Women, I was able to terminate Roe v. Wade. I got rid of Roe v. Wade. Killing Roe v. Wade.
Women's suffrage is a long story of hard work and heartache crowned by victory.
Was it so hard being an American girl?
Women throughout the country are committed to winning these rights for themselves.
Was it so hard living in a first problem world?
I'm Connie Chung, CBS News, New York.
When the American promise is the land of the free.
too. I pray that we all remember our children are watching.
Every heart beats true for the red, white, and blue. Tell me, girls, what are we gonna do? Every heart beats true for the red, white, and blue. Tell me, girls, what are we gonna do? Every heart lost to all the pain in America. Girls, what are we gonna do? Every heart.
While I may be the first woman in this office, I will not be the last.
Every heart beats true for the red, white, and blue. Tell me, girls, what are we gonna do?